Hello, my friends. It's Nicole Scott from the Gorgeous Gray Movement, and I have a very special guest here, Stephanie from the United States. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, hi. Thanks so much for
Hello.
having me.
Yes, so we met on Instagram. You can follow her on Live Free. So Live Free, No Die. And, oh, give me one sec. Of course, my computer is giving me this sign. I've been on it too long today. You know, you're in COVID mode when your computer is always crashing. So Stephanie started this journey March 2020. So that's like around some big event that happened around the world. I'm curious to hear her story, but and she's a blogger. So I want Stephanie to talk. The first question I always ask is, why did you dive in to this whole beautiful natural journey when most of the world of women are dying at all ages, right to the grave?
Yeah, I always admired people who had gray hair. I would actually stop them at the grocery store or wherever I was and, ask them questions, and sometimes it would catch them off guard and sometimes not. But, usually it ended with, you too can do this. And I never thought I could. I had very, very dark hair. I still do. This was my natural color, this dark, until it started going gray. But in, last year when the pandemic hit and we were all in quarantine, I stockpiled hair dye. I went to the grocery store and I bought a couple boxes because I was not going to not dye my hair, and I was known as having dark hair, and I thought I had to keep up with that. And I did dye it in March. So right when the pandemic hit, I did do one of those boxes. And, after that, I started seeing all of these pictures of women on Instagram. And I was like, wow, like this is a thing. Like people are doing this. They're letting their hair go naturally gray. And it started to spin my wheels. And so I joke and I say that I hopped on the pandemic gray train, but it's true. I went cold turkey and just stopped, and I bought a lot of headbands, and I've just gone from there. It's been one of the most empowering experiences, and I'm so glad I did it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So I haven't actually done a lot of interviews of women that kind of started within that last year and the reason why. So that's really neat to have you. So your hair color of dark was the same color as mine. So as you can see, I have these dark brows just like you do. And do you know that one of the number one questions that I get is, what are you going to do with your brows? And
I
it's so
don't get
funny,
that.
right? And so I'm like, well, my brows are still dark. And, I do have microblading and for thickness and stuff, but it's still matching the same color. And I don't know if you've had that question yet because you're not as white as me, but it might come down the road. But it's one of the most, and yet you see all of these men out in the world, like even on TV and actors where they're, in their 70s and they have their, their natural gray or silver, and they have, the dark black still.
Yeah.
Nobody questions that, but women, we can be so nasty to each other. And it's one of the most common things on my stories on YouTube is they'll say, oh my gosh, you have to do something with your eyebrows. They're too dark. I'm like, what do you do with them? I'm like, dye them? Any thoughts
Right.
on
So
that?
I've been researching a lot about beauty with gray hair. What
Yeah.
makeup to wear, all that stuff. How do you keep up the colors that you're wearing with makeup and stuff. And I keep hearing that when you have lighter hair, gray hair, the darkness of your other features, your other hair features, like your eyelashes, your eyebrows, the darker they are, the more youthful you look. So I actually think that it's a good thing to have, that difference. And you look gorgeous. Like I think your eyebrows are stunning. I would not change them.
Well, thank you. And, I guess I want to just, I haven't really talked about this a lot in the interview. So it's just kind of ironic that we're just having this conversation. But yeah, for women, I guess the message is just be kind to the women that are going through this transition. I mean, we're already going through probably one of the hardest transitions that one will ever do. And so my message is always, as women, we need to lift each other up. We need to be a team. We need to be on the, the same side. And we're giggling because we see her son in the back. And I've had many interviews with that. So he's like bombing it. And that's okay. That's why I love these interviews. In the reality, it's so awesome. So you had mentioned cold turkey. What made you decide to go cold turkey? Because that is actually, I think, one of the hardest ones to do, but beside like shaving your head. Why did you come up with the cold turkey one versus, like, for me, I think my story where I ended up investing, oh my gosh, over a year, $2,500 to like go through the less of the blend, like, wanting to make it look so good through that whole year, which is really hard
Yeah.
to do. Like, you just have to go, it's going to look a little ugly and crazy and weird and not fitting in, and that's okay. You went cold turkey. I did not. There's not one right way to do this, ladies. I just want to let you know, you got to do you. You decided to go cold turkey. Why did you do that? That's so darn brave. Good for you, girl.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. But there really was no other choice. We were in lockdown. And, it wasn't like although I was, looking at Jack Martin for Instagram, we couldn't make an appointment, for flying out to see him. I did later on talk to my hairstylist about maybe getting the ends dyed or bleached and then, a toner, a gray toner. But, the process is very long. It's expensive. There's no guarantee that it will look beautiful. So I really just, went cold turkey because there really, at that point, during quarantine, there was no other option. But even after, I was like, I've come this far. I might as well just keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because as my hair grows, I feel more empowered, more confident. And it's that whole thing where when you're out in the world and people look at you and they question, like, is she really doing that? Like, did she just miss like 6 hair appointments? Or, I like being unique and different. Like, I love that feeling. And, I want to prove to people that you don't have to do it. Like, I'm not anti-hair dye. Like, I'm not, I think, if you want to dye your hair, that's awesome. Whatever makes you feel awesome and beautiful, like, go for it. I want to have the choice. I want to, normalize gray hair as a hair color. And if we want to make that choice, then we don't get the whole like, oh, are you really doing that? It's just, oh, okay, yeah, that looks good. Because there are so many beautiful women with gray hair. I mean, look at you. I mean, it's just another hair color. So I love that, as it grows and people look, it's almost like, we're beacons for other women to say, it's you can do this. It's okay. It's not only okay, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful,
Yeah. I love the movement. I love that, the social media tool that we have to unite women from around the world, to give more power, more inspiration, more stories for us to choose what feels right for us authentically. I love what you said, just about choice, right? As women, to choice and not to feel bad about our choice, right? You think about how many seasons over the decades where women felt forced to do something, right? Forced to wear the suit to work with the heels, forced to look a certain way, forced, in the early 40s and 50s in the commercials, that women needed to look a certain way for their husbands to come home. Like, when I was researching my book and I was watching some of these commercials that would be like our parents, our moms were supposed to look like. Oh my gosh, you just go, we have come so far, and it's so neat to see this movement. And it'll be so neat to see that in 30, 40, 50 years, that this won't even be a conversation. It will just be, this is just okay. And there won't be no weirdness, and there won't be no like, hey, I'm looking at you. What are you doing?
Right.
And we're part of that.
Exactly.
We're in the forefront. We're in the forefront of this movement. And I think it's a ripple effect to other movements. It's not just about, allowing this, but where else are we giving women permission to be their natural, beautiful selves? Do we need makeup? Don't we need makeup? Do we have to wear
Right.
heels? Don't wear heels, right?
Plastic surgery, all that stuff.
Right, exactly. And that's just the word that I use is freedom. Do you want to talk about the word freedom to you? What
Oh,
that
I love
means as a
that.
woman?
Yes, 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 I agree 100%. I think that being free from the box, literally, from the hair dye box, but also the box that we get put in, that we have to be a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, and I think that we're wearing, a sign on our head that says, I'm not fitting in your box. I don't have to do what you think is beautiful. I don't, I can be my own definition of beautiful. And like you said, it's not just hair dye. It's about, so many other things. And I just want to age gracefully in whatever definition I want it to be,
I love that. And I remember when I decided, it was October 2018, I had just finished I think in my second round of Botox. I had gotten Botox right in here with my 11s. Like they're really deep. I call them my first child and my second child. And as I started to go down this road of natural and beauty, what it did is it gave me permission to ditch the Botox, realizing that it was almost like I did it because my friends were doing it. I did it because I went through a divorce and I thought I needed to look a certain way to go online, to go on dating so that I could get a man. That was my thinking.
Right.
But then when I let go of this and what it represented, I was like, I don't have to wear makeup on Zoom if I don't want to. Do I still feel beautiful? Yep. I don't need to put Botox in my forehead anymore and still feel like I need, right? And so it was a really interesting mind shift for me. It was almost like a ripple effect. It just wasn't about the gray anymore. It was about deeper questions of
Yeah.
beauty. And I don't know, have you gone there as well with those kind of deeper questions of do I need this? Don't I need this? Do I need to reinvent myself? What does that look like? Do you want to just share a little bit of that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's very insightful. When 6 months before quarantine, I had my breast implants removed, and I was just not feeling well for years, and I had no idea. And I wanted to just get rid of all of the toxic chemicals in my life, be as authentic as possible. And hair dye was kind of the last frontier for me. And I remember sitting on my front porch. I used to, during quarantine, just read a ton of books. And I would sit there and be like, the hair dye is your last thing, that, the last toxic chemical. I had removed all the chemicals from my house. All my beauty products that I was using were, as clean as possible. I downloaded the Think Dirty app, and I would scan everything that I would use. And, I kind of just had this aha where I was like, you know what, Steph, when you stop the hair dye, you will be 100% authentic. You will be you. You got rid of the breast implants. It was a really, the Oprah aha moment of all aha moments for me. And I was just like, this is where you need to go to truly feel authentic.
Wow, that is amazing. I love how you just kind of deep dived us there in the whole health thing. Did you get better in your body when you started to make these changes? Do you want to talk a little bit about where your health was, and then how those changes got you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I was really struggling hormonally for years and years and years. I thought I was perimenopausal. I was, 36 when I started having the issues. And, suffering from not sleeping, hot flashing, just, the gamut of, what I thought were hormonal issues. And so I had removed all the toxins from our house, our laundry, our all the chemicals, and I just still wasn't feeling great. And I would still go to the salon every 6 weeks to get my hair colored. And I never made the connection that maybe the hair dye was causing any of these issues. And I don't know. I don't fully 100% know if they were. But I do know that once I removed, the implants and the chemicals, and stopped coloring my hair, my hormones have improved so much. And just my sleeping and all of the, just the day to day, I feel so much better. And that could be a lot of mental, just clarity and just feeling good emotionally and mentally. But it I'm sure has a whole lot to do with that too, with removing the toxins.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, I love that. Well, my passion, of course, as a holistic nutritionist for 16 years has been about this deep dive of my own health journey and my family's journey. And so it's so neat to interview women like yourself that have, the light bulb went off. You started to make these connections. Hair dye was the last. I think I interviewed the CEO of the Green Beaver Company. It's a Canadian company outside of in Quebec. And his name is Ellen. And I remember interviewing him. And of course, he's been at trade shows for the last 20 years with his natural products before natural products were in. And I remember in his interview, he said there were two of the last frontiers of the toxins that women tend to remove. First one is hair dye. So it's the last one, or the antiperspirant unhealthy deodorant. It's like, no way. I'm not going to let anybody smell my pits. I'm going to just clog up those lymph nodes and pores. And I'm going to go out to the world smelling like, a strawberry. And then same with this. So it was neat. That's what he said in his 20-year journey of being at the trade shows. Those were kind of the last two where women were like, not willing to go there.
Right.
So it's pretty cool that movement is happening. I want to thank you, Stephanie, so much for sharing your beautiful story. Is there any last word of wisdom to women that are sitting on the fence, thinking about it, biting their nails, going, I want to do it, but anything that you can kind of push them off the fence?
Yeah, definitely. Buy a lot of headbands. No, but seriously, join the Silver Sisters community. There are so many sites, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, where you don't have to go alone on the journey. I mean, there's so many women who are going through it with you and with me and with us that are so supportive. A couple, besides yourself, Nicole, Elisa in Montreal on YouTube, Nicole Johnson on YouTube, just redefining beauty for us as women, and lean into the Silver Sisters community, because we want to hear your story. We want to hear the next woman's story. We want to know, what excites you about this journey,
I love that. I remember I was following Nicole's story, and were you following her for a long time? And do you remember she had that long dark hair, and then she wanted to go from dark hair to instant gray, and she lost half of her hair. Remember, she had to cut all of that, and I was like, oh.
Yep. I know.
I remember taking that story to my hairdresser, and she goes, exactly. That's why we won't do that for your hair. Cause I had quite long hair as well. So I remember that story, and she definitely was an influencer for me to say, okay, that's not the route that I'm going. But that's awesome. I want to thank you so much, Steph, for your time, Stephanie. I really appreciate that. And like Stephanie said, get connected. If you want to follow, Gorgeous Gray Movement, we're on Facebook. We have a private group. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you will get more stories like this today of just women that have gone before you. If you need that inspiration to finally push you off the fence and join our beautiful sisterhood. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time.